Hello once again from the Full Ahead podcast, proudly sponsored by Stena Line, the Irish Sea's leading ferry company. I'm Alistair Eagles.
And I'm Nigel Thompson, and we've already uncovered, haven't we, some amazing stories and met some brilliant members of the Maritime community. And today's episode is one you're going to love.
Yeah, how often do you look at a port and see massive ships coming in and out? Container ships, bulk carriers, tankers. And how often do you wonder, how do they actually get alongside? How do they actually move onto the berth?
Today we're meeting someone who's not only a tug captain in one of the UK's busiest ports, but is also aiming to shine a light on the vital job she does.
Yeah, I feel a little bit starstruck because we're going to meet an Instagram and YouTube recent star, Rhiannon Pritchard, known as Hey Tugboat, and she's really making waves, towing ships in and around the Bristol Channel.
Your look inside the world of ships and shipping.
This is Full Ahead
With Alistair Eagles and Nigel Thompson.
I feel a bit kind of starstruck after spending breakfast watching YouTube videos. So yeah, they're very good, by the way. So
thanks. It's way more fun than I thought it was going to be.
Well, first of all, as Alistair said, yeah, the films are amazing. That's how I discovered you. I was just idly going through, and I think you get sent when you do things on ships and shipping. You get sent kind of reels and things. And I spotted yours, and I've seen people try and do things before, but yours were certainly a different level. I mean, first of all, what was the inspiration behind them?
I don't really know. I mean, I've always had, not always, but for the last 6 or so years, I've had like a horse Instagram, which has not done as well as the tug one at all. But I've kind of been in the world of Instagram and watching what other people have been doing for quite a while. And one day, and I would post up on my stories things about the tug and talk to people about it. And they were always a bit interested, but it was mostly horse focused. And then one day, I think this year we had the most awful winter, didn't we? And it rained like every day. And then we had one sunny day and I was so happy. I was like, I'm going to film this. And I filmed a job and I put it up on my horse Instagram and I got like 20,000 views. And I was like, okay, that's way more. Normally I would get like 200 on my horse thing. So I was like, okay. So then I just thought, well, I'll just make a tug Instagram. And I did, and it kept doing really well. And I thought, let's try and make some money out of it then. Let's go to YouTube, do some more long form as well. Because people have so many questions, and a reel is just sort of a bit of fun, isn't it? Whereas if you want to answer people's questions, show a bit more in depth, then you need the long form. So I started it about 2 months ago, and it's gone kind of crazy.
Hey Tugboat fans, so for you today, I have a tour of my boat. Toes is asleep. But anyway, this is our bridge. This is the view.
Well, even the video walking around the tug and showing people, the different sections of a tug. I mean, I think at last count 140,000 views on that video for a YouTube channel that only started 2 months ago. People talk about finding your niche, and it seems to be you found a niche not just in your career, but also in this kind of social media world where there seems to be a real interest in maybe seeing something that the public can't normally see. Maybe that's the attraction.
I think it is. There's a real variety in viewers, it seems. There's people that don't know anything about boats. Like, people have asked me, like, how do you get paid? I'm like, oh, bank transfer. They're not sending cash down on the tow line. I'm employed. I pay tax. It's normal. And there's quite a few ex-seafarers, which I really love. A few people, who work in the industry, and just so many comments from people saying they don't know why it's come up on their algorithm, but it has, and they love it. So yeah, it seems to be hitting a wide range. I'm a bit flabbergasted by the whole thing, but I'm loving it. So
it's a breath of fresh air. I mean, it's good to watch, and you say, especially when you're sort of as you mentioned, the weather. I mean, the weather's been rubbish. It's been picked up now, but when you see what you're seeing, from your point of view as well, it is amazing. It's you get a sense of perspective, these massive ships. But I was curious about the actual industry itself. What drew you into becoming a tug captain?
Well, I never thought that I would go on to tugs at all. I went to sea at 27. So before that, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I felt a lot of pressure to find the thing and be really good at it and everything, but I could never settle, never found anything. And then one of my friend's sisters started doing a cadetship, and me and my friend were like, what? What are you doing? And then we looked into it, and like the next year we were both down at Warsash. She was doing engineering, I was doing deck. And so that took 3.5 years, qualified as an officer of the watch. I went to work for BP on tankers, which was amazing, but turns out I hated being away for 3 months at a time. I thought that I would love it. That's what I thought I was going to do. But yeah, I really didn't. So then I went to ferries on the Irish Sea. So I was with Stena Line, the Fishguard to Rosslare ferry, because I'd spent some time there as a cadet.
Very good.
And I was there for about 1.5 years, I think. And then someone I was at college with said that he was working on the tugs in Milford and that I should, look into it, give it a go. Yeah, I did. The rotation worked better for me. On the ferries, sometimes you're doing 3 weeks on, sometimes it's 2 weeks. It's not as set, whereas in Milford it was 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. You kind of know where you are a bit more. Yeah, and then as soon as I got the job there, I never looked back. I was like, this is amazing. This is the one for me.
So there's no history of maritime in your family, or it wasn't a kind of...
Nope.
Yeah, right, it's just literally out of the blue, 27, not sure what to do a cadetship. I don't imagine there are many people at 27 doing cadetships. Most people would go kind of earlier in their life maybe, or...
Yeah, definitely. There was a range between 16 and the oldest people were 40. There were 2 40-year-old guys on the course, a few my age, but mostly you're talking 18 to 23. Some people before uni, some people after uni. We definitely stood out, the older ones. But I think you find a lot more older people that start when they're older. They stay in the industry more because they've gone into it knowing what the alternative is, I think. And they've gone into it for a reason, as opposed to one of my friends was 16 when she started, and she literally just Googled how to get away from home. And the first thing that came up was the Merchant Navy. So she applied and away she went. It's very, very different, where I was like, no, this is the thing that I want to do for my career. I'm very focused on it. Yeah, really different.
Your look inside the world of ships and shipping. This is Full Ahead.
Being on a tanker or being on a ferry is a completely different job to being on a tug. And the kind of academic stuff you learn at nautical college and that's one thing, but the actual ability to drive a tug and position a tug and maneuver a tug, that's a whole different thing. And I'd imagine there are some people that are very good at that just naturally and some others that take more time, but there must be quite a steep learning curve to being able to drive a tug in the way that you do in these kind of tight confines with very big ships around you.
Yeah, you're exactly right on all of that. It's a completely different world. I feel like I don't use anything that I learned when I was at sea, but then you speak to people who aren't in the industry and they're like, oh no, you know nothing. I'm still using the things that I learned. It just feels different, I wasn't a natural at the driving at all. It took me a really long time. I don't know, there's just so much going on and you have to concentrate on everything and drive. I couldn't get it for a really long time. And then suddenly I could, and now it's second nature. I don't even think about it really. I wish I could do it with my eyes shut now. So I've turned into a natural, but I wasn't at the time. So I find it really interesting watching other people learn. I started to do a little bit of training myself. I think it's really helpful having had that experience, not being natural myself, not taking to it straight away. I can be a lot more understanding of other people that are finding it hard, because I think if you've had it really easy, you don't understand why other people can't just do it. Whereas I get it, because it just didn't click in my head for a long time.
Hey Tugboat fans, we're doing a push job here and I've got 3 points of view to show you something that I think is quite cool. So I've come alongside the vessel here. In a minute, the pilot's going to ask me to square up, which means he wants me to turn 90 degrees and be ready to push on the vessel. And then I stop recording. But look, this happens. This isn't right. The ship shouldn't be this close. The tug shouldn't be this close. It's in the wrong position because we've got a funny bit of water that kind of, they call it the gyre. it pushes the bows of ships out sometimes just as they're getting into the lock. So pilots have to work really, really hard here. I'm pushing full at this point. The bow tug's headed over. The pilot's doing as best he can on the ship. But it got quite hairy there for a moment. But you can see it's just starting to take effect. That ship is just starting.
I wonder as well, because of just thinking of the recent videos you've posted, these massive ships, and the fact that you are so small and yet so powerful as well, but also the Bristol Channel and the tidal range in the channel as well, the kind of other things you have to put up with and have to bear in mind. Your brain was the size of a planet, because you're having to bear in mind, what's happening, what nature is doing, but also what the man-made thing coming towards you is doing as well. So it's a lot to take in, isn't it? A lot to take on.
There's a lot to take in, and I think it helps, doing the same thing day in, day out, because you start to read it without being conscious that you're reading it, Like, I check my tide before we go out, so I know if I'm flooding or ebbing, but also I would look at the buoys. You can see if they're leaning over one way or another, because we get really, really strong tidal flows, like, up to 5 knots, really. I mean, it does go stronger, but hopefully we're not out there doing about more than 5 knots, because that would be hairy.
You've got tide, you've got locks to contend with, and then some of the ships you're dealing with are some of the most, I'd say, difficult ships from a tug point of view. Very high-sided car-carrying vessels, which in terms of windage, have quite a big effect with windage. And it seems like Bristol car-carrying ships, tide, locks, it's like a perfect storm of difficult things to me.
It's really challenging, and in the winter it's really difficult. Well, we say in the winter because that's obviously when you get the worst weather, but you can get some horrible wind in the summer as well. The wind is the biggest problem. We don't really get too much swell at the Bristol Channel, which is really good because I get seasick. I was terrible down in Milford. I really struggled with it. Tugs are like floating corks, they just bob about. They're not good in a seaway, at all. But it's relatively calm. We don't get that much of it up in the channel, which is really, really good. But we do get the wind. And like you said, those high-sided car carriers are really difficult. And we're getting really, really big ones now that basically the max size that can fit into the lock. And they can be really, really difficult, especially if you've got a strong tide. But then we also get the aviation fuel for Heathrow. And that comes in can come in on really deep drafted vessels, and then they're really challenging as well, because the less water there is underneath them when you get to the pier, the harder they are to push against the pier. You end up on full for quite some time with those. It's the tugs work really, really hard.
It's a fascinating life you lead. I mean, it's learning so much, and grateful for your insight as well. I just wonder, can you give us an example of what a typical day is like? I know we're talking to you when you're having a well-earned rest at the moment, but what when do you get kind of assigned to a ship? How much in advance do you know what you're doing?
Okay, so we work week on, week off. We start on a Wednesday. We start on the PM tide, because obviously with the tidal range, the tide's everything to us, the tide times. So we'll work both high tides in the day. It can be really tiring because you can end up working 8 hours one tide, having 4 hours off. And then if you have to work 6 hours, like 14 hours is the most we can work under the ILO. So the shipping itself is organised by VTS in Bristol. They say who's coming in and who's not. Well, them and the port, agree on what ships they've got space for, when they're going to do what particular cargoes and things. And then we've got a set of tug controllers that are up in Tees, and we've got our own rota system as well. So you're not always the first in line to work, because not all ships require all tugs. We've got 6 tugs in our port. When I started there were 3, and one that went in between Swansea and Bristol, because we had Swansea, but obviously the closure of Tata Steel, we all merged together, but we're getting a lot of steel ships that we're going down there. So there's a lot more work now. So we do need the 6 tugs, but obviously you don't want to be the first one out every time. So we've got our rota that we work on. And then our tug controllers speak to VTS. They get the plan for the day. There's also a tide tracker website, Bristol Port website. You can see what ships are coming in. So anyone can access that. I think people quite like looking at, once you sort of get to understand what it all means. You can see the initials of the pilots, you can see what tugs are doing what jobs and the draft of the vessel and things like that. Yeah, and then the tug controllers just assign it to us. It can change on the tide. It can sometimes we know like a week before, but mostly it's the day before or on the day that things get firmed up.
Who decides? So a ship's coming up the Bristol Channel. It's a lovely calm day. Who makes the decision about whether a tug is needed or not, or how many tugs are needed? Is that port? Is that the pilot? Is that the captain? Is it you guys? How does the decision-making process kind of work?
Well, it's definitely not us. There are port requirements. So vessels over a certain size, vessels over a certain draft will always have tugs, and that will set the number of tugs that they have. If the weather is bad, or if the pilot gets on board and thinks, hang on, something's not ideal here, the bow thrusters doesn't work, or they've got engine problems, anything like that, the pilot will adjust the number of tugs and we'll get called out. But yeah, usually it's the parameters, and the wind obviously affects it, and the weather. But
what's your favourite bit of the job? I mean, I've seen you kind of in all different positions around the ship, kind of pushing from the side with a stern line at the back, with a bow line. Is there a kind of a job you really enjoy, or a bit of the job you really enjoy? What's your kind of favourite?
Yeah, I think it's bow to bow, because it's the last one you learn to do, because it's probably the most dangerous, because you're driving towards a ship that's driving towards you. Obviously, you stop and you let them come towards you, but there's been several accidents bow to bow over the past few years around the country, around the world. It is quite dangerous, because obviously if something goes wrong, that ship's still coming towards you. Whereas if you're on a stern and something goes wrong, you can just float away behind it, So it gets the adrenaline pumping sometimes. You also, it's quite hard to hold your position sometimes. And you've got crews that don't know what the difference between a heaving line and a messenger line, which many landlubbers won't, but heaving line's a thin line with a weight on the end. So if you throw it, it is going to land in a where you want it to go, really. But a messenger line is a thicker line, and they're not going to get to us in any kind of wind. Their throws are terrible. The pilots always ask them for a heaving line. 9 times out of 10, they've got no idea the difference.
So you've got to be close enough to the ship to get that line. You've got to be close enough to the bow to receive that mooring line, that heaving line. But you've also got to be far enough away not to be run over by the ship, effectively. Yeah. So
you're basically like a metre off their bow, sat underneath them. With the car carriers, they're basically kind of over you in a way with their flare. Bulkers are easier to do because they're smaller, and the tankers, they're going slower because they've got so much more draft, and there's a lot of them, so it's a lot easier to sort of sit on the front. But the car carriers, they're the most challenging, like in the dark, in the wind, with a crew that can't throw at you, and you have to wait there. And then that's your crunch point there, because when they throw their heaving line down to you, we attach that to our messenger, they heave that up, and then it's our pennant and then our tow gear. But quite often they've got hands on that line, and then at their end, and my end is attached to the tug. If I mess up at that point, I could kill them very easily.
On one of your videos, I remember you saying you could see the way the line was moving as though pulling it in, it was being pulled in by hand rather than being pulled in on a winch. And you could just tell by the way the line was moving that was being done by hand, and you were extra conscious of that. So the videos are amazing, by the way. I mean, I know they've only recently started on YouTube, but if any of our listeners haven't followed the Instagram channel or haven't seen the YouTube, I'm sure you can give us the correct name, but it's Hey Tugboat, I think is correct. Is that right?
Yeah, it's Hey_Tugboat.
Yeah, so that's the same for Instagram and for YouTube. Yeah, great. But yeah, it's worth watching. And it started out to me, your first one, very much like a slow canal boat journey where you just got a camera on the tug watching what happens. And then as you've progressed, we're seeing more of you, more of the kind of pilot comms, more of the kind of the last one with a split screen and stuff. It's looking, it's starting to really progress.
I'll tell you what was interesting as well, the fact that you're not on your own. I mean, it's very much teamwork, isn't it, with the other tugs that you mentioned before. But as a female tug captain, there are other female tug captains in the channel working alongside you.
Yeah, I was the first woman tug captain in the Bristol Channel, which felt pretty good. Becca is a captain with us now as well, and we've got a couple of other women that work on deck. We're a really diverse crew in Bristol. There's quite a few of us, all different like ethnicities and people from all over, which is really, really nice. And we all work together really well. Most ships we do is more than one tug on them, so we're in contact with each other while we're working all the time. We have really good relationships with the pilots as well. That's really important because, if we're not all working together, if the wheels aren't oiled and it's not going smoothly, it's just more dangerous, isn't it? If you know what kind of thing your pilot is going to ask you for, it just makes it easier.
Have you got a favourite? I mean, when it comes to sort of the ships coming out, I can imagine there's kind of regular return kind of visits and things, and I'm sure there's ones you think, oh, great, and other ones you think, maybe not.
There are some that I don't like, but honestly, I've just taken a dislike to them for no reason. Like they've come in the middle of the night when I want to be in bed or something, so they've got a black mark against them, and I hate them for every time they come back.
Completely rational, then. That's great. Yeah. So.
Yeah, completely rational. Yeah. We get the orange juice boat in. I really like that one, the Orange Wave, because it comes with concentrate orange juice. It goes into Avonmouth. It is the most pristine ship you have ever seen. It's white and it's got all orange highlights on it. I just really enjoyed that one because it's so nice. And one time, somebody on one of the tugs asked them to send down some orange juice, and they did. They sent it down, a little jug of orange juice on the line, which I think is brilliant.
I find when I ever visit a port, I always find it amazing kind of what comes in through the port. So when I was last in Bristol, I remember talking about the Heathrow aviation fuel, and who would have thought that the aviation fuel for Heathrow comes through Bristol, and it's just why and the history of that, and it's just the orange juice and whatever else. And now I don't know how many new cars come through the port a year, but if anyone's driven down the M5 over the big bridge,
thousands,
and look to your right hand side or left hand side, which way you're going, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of cars that are imported into Bristol for the garage networks around the UK.
Yeah, it's a really wide variety of cargoes there. It's crazy. So we do other fuel as well. There's I was going to say Texaco. I don't know if it is Texaco. I can't remember. Anyway, there's some oil in Avonmouth. There was scrap. That should be starting up again soon. There's the cars, obviously, thousands and thousands of cars. It's the biggest animal feed port in the UK as well. So I don't love those because they're bulk carriers, and they're sort of, there's a massive cranes with grabbers that takes the animal feed out, and then it just gets everywhere. The tug gets covered in like dust and gross stuff, so that's not my favourite.
And are you assigned to a tug? Is the Svitzer Sun your tug and that's your baby kind of thing, and you stay with that same vessel? Yeah?
Yes, so we do move around sometimes, to do with manning and breakdowns and things like that, but it's much more efficient and effective to have a permanent crew on a tug because of the ownership and the repairs and things like that. And especially for skippers and engineers, they're the ones that move the least, because you want to get to know your boat really, really well, get to know your manoeuvring characteristics, feel safe and comfortable on your boat. And for your engineer, it's really important that they know that inside out. And then as a crew as well, it's really important to gel together. Having a good crew is really, really important to me. I'm quite, I try to cherry pick who I have on my tug. It doesn't always work. Sometimes, you just get given people because you need to, but I've got a really good crew at the moment. We're all really good friends. We hang out outside work. It's brilliant. Yeah.
Good to hear. We'd set up the Full Ahead podcast a year ago to try and sort of shine a light on jobs just like this. I'm just sat making mental notes of, this is exactly why we set it up, wasn't it? To try and sort of show people, let people who are listening to the podcast know a bit more about the work you do and the kind of cargoes that come through ports that people just pass by and don't even realise. What do you think about the maritime industry and how it's kind of your mates and your family? What do they think about what you and your colleagues do?
They think it's mental, I think. Nobody else I know works at sea. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know anything about it when I was growing up. Not a thing. And I live in South Wales in the valleys. I don't know, when I started I started with BP. Turns out there was a guy who started working with me who lives literally around the corner. I was like, I thought I was the only seafarer from Caerphilly. And when I was at college, there was someone from my village as well, which is just up the road. So we do get around, but most people don't really have a clue about it at all, which is crazy. Like, as you know, it's 80% of everything that comes in and out of the UK comes via ship, and people just have got no concept of it. I think when the industry struggled in the 80s, I think people before that, there were loads more British seafarers. So I think it'd be a lot more common to know someone who worked at sea and have an idea of the industry. But I think since then, the awareness has really gone down, which is a shame because there's so much potential there for people, so many jobs, so much that people can get involved in that they don't know about.
And lifestyle too. I mean, I used to joke with our captains who were on a similar kind of 2 on, 2 off rotation. You're doing 1 week on, 1 week off. But I used to joke with them all. So you've got half a year off then. That's quite nice kind of thing. And I get 4 weeks holiday or whatever kind of. But how do you find that week on, week off? It must be pretty intense when you're on board, but then you get a week to play with horses kind of the rest of the time, I suppose.
Yeah, I love it. Sometimes we do 2 weeks. I've gone between the two. And it depends how busy it is, whether I prefer a week or 2. Obviously, I always say that I prefer a week on and 2 weeks off, but they haven't taken me up on that yet. I don't know
Worth
why.
a try.
Yeah, but no, the time off is it. And, I'm someone that needs a lot of sleep. Everyone laughs at me at work always because I'm always in bed. I could easily have 10 hours sleep every night and I would be happy. Obviously, I do not get that on my work weeks. So I spend a lot of time sleeping and resting on my weeks off. But we're lucky in that the way we work is as long as we're within an hour and a half, if there's no shipping, we can go home. So it's like being on call.
Okay.
So even on my week on, in between tides, if I've got an emergency, I can go home and deal with it so long as I'm able to come back to work quickly at the drop of a hat kind of. But yeah, I mean, you can't beat the lifestyle that working at sea gives you. It's well paid across the board. Less so for shoreside, but at sea, because of how dangerous it is, because of the unsociable hours, because you're away from home, the pay does reflect that. And the time off is brilliant. People get to travel the world. I thought I would do a lot more of that, but, I still circumnavigated the globe once. That was fun. And I've paid off in Singapore and Mauritius, and I joined a ship in Oman. I wasn't deep sea for that long, but you still get to see amazing things and have amazing experiences.
You've really given us a great insight. And yes, I'm still laughing at the idea of Googling leaving home. I think that's a great thing to spark people's imagination. I'm sure that will get people doing that as we speak. So what's the future then? Where do you see yourself going, or what do you want to do? Are you just happy doing what you're doing?
I mean, yeah, I'm not a kind of person that is ambition over everything. I think it's really important to enjoy where you're at and reach a level where you're comfortable and not just keep striving all the time. I'm really happy being a skipper. I think doing the social media and the YouTube and everything has added a different dimension. It's really made me appreciate different aspects of my job that I maybe didn't appreciate as much before. So I think that'll probably keep me in my job a bit longer as well. I don't have any ambitions to go shoreside. I don't think I could handle a 9-to-5 job anymore. I did it a bit before I went to sea, but it's not for me. So I don't know. I'm happy at the moment, and we'll just see how it goes, see what happens,
And being a tug captain in Bristol at the moment, do you have to go through a particular training course for that port? Or now that you're a tug captain, could you be sent to, I don't know, Liverpool or somewhere else? Or do you have to kind of pass out for each individual port like a pilot would?
Kind of. I mean, I could be moved anywhere, and that is part of my contract. But if I was to go and be a skipper somewhere else, the skippers in that port would have to say, yeah, she's got like a local knowledge. She's got the awareness of how we work here. That's what we do with people coming in, because it's different everywhere. We've got our lock system. We've got our specific places where we meet the pilot. We've got things that we know the pilots want when they ask for a certain thing, that they might not do in different ports. All of that local knowledge you need to pick up on, but maybe just a week or two, like shadowing someone up there, and then I could work anywhere. Yeah. So, maybe one day I'll want to go and work in Australia or somewhere else, because we do, Svitzer's a global company, so there are opportunities, I think.
Very portable skills, so yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's been amazing talking to you, Rhiannon. Thanks very much for coming on the Full Ahead podcast. For our listeners, can you just once again remind us of the Instagram and YouTube name so they can check out your amazing kind of videos and shorts?
Thank you. It is hey_tugboat on Instagram, YouTube, and unfortunately TikTok as well, because I've succumbed to that.
And you can see her work at Hey Tugboat on Instagram and YouTube. Some brilliant films from a point of view you don't often see.
Yeah, I've subscribed. I am kind of watching them now.
You're hooked.
I'm a bit of a fan, to be fair. So just subscribe to her channel, subscribe to the Full Ahead podcast as well to hear what's happening with us.
Yeah, we're releasing episodes of the podcast so you can enjoy it over the weekend, perhaps, on your morning commute as well, perhaps on Monday morning. Be sure to subscribe now.
So until next time, thanks again for listening to the Full Ahead podcast, proudly sponsored by Stena Line, the Irish Sea's leading ferry company.